Hello. So today we discuss frequency distribution. That is basically how you can convert raw data into a frequency distribution table. And in this case, we will work with an example such that you can be able to understand well. In this case, we have a raw data. Remember, we have a raw data, and then we need to simplify this raw data in a tabular form. Remember, we are talking about organization of data. In organization, we have two. It's either classification or tabulation. So this is also another way of tabulating the information given. So in this case, I want us to come up with a frequency distribution table from the above example. And when you're coming up with a frequency distribution, you can either group in form of, we have two forms of grouping. It can be inclusive form, or exclusive form of grouping. So we start with the first one. So this means we need to draw two tables. And we start with inclusive form of grouping. So inclusive, what do we mean by the term inclusive form? In inclusive form, there is key term you need to understand, a term referred to as a class limit. A class limit. In this case, if I give you an example of any class, not necessarily from our question, if we say we have a class of 25 to 30, in this case, the class limit of this, it will depend with the mode of grouping. So let's first understand what we mean by the class limits. In this case, the class limits here, we can say, remember when we were studying back at high school, we had the limits, the error and approximation. We had, like, for example, we talked of the limits for 1 is 0.5 and 1.5. So these come into place when you want to find class limits, especially in inclusive form of grouping. Let me show you what I mean by that. So in inclusive form, we will be guided by one thing. Our question is group the above data taking the class interval as 5. So the class interval is 5. Meaning each and every class that we are coming up with should have 5. Each and every class should have 5. So let me show you. For example, so in our data, in the raw data which we have, let's first identify the maximum value and the maximum and the minimum. So let's check our data very well. In this case, we have the minimum as 1. Let's see, the maximum is it is 23. We have 23 as the we have 24. So in this case, we have the minimum value at 1, maximum at 24. Maximum at 24. So if minimum is 1, it means the first limit will be 1. So we have class. When you're coming up with a frequency distribution, you need to come up with the classes. Then we have the frequency, but first we will tally, then the frequency. So our first class will be from 1. And then from 1, but our class interval is supposed to be 5. What do we mean by that? It means if we start with 1, for us to give us a class interval of 5, remember the limit we talked about. In inclusive form, you have to consider the limits. So in this case, this will be 0.5 as our lower class limit. So you need to get 0.5, and then you find out which other value is supposed to give you a class interval of 5. So in this case, if you say 1 plus 5, that will give you the upper class limit as 6. But since it is inclusive form, it cannot be 6, it will have to be 5. Why? Since 0.5 plus 5, it's supposed to give you, no, 0.5 plus 5, this is supposed to give you 5.5, which is supposed to be our upper class limit. This is inclusive form, meaning our first class will be 1 to 5. And then another thing that you need to note in inclusive form is that both the values, they are inclusive, meaning when we come to be counting out all the values which are between 1 and 5, in this case, you're supposed to include all the values between 1. And in this case, it should be between 0.5 to 5.5. So, all the values in between 0.5 and 5.5 should be in this class. And then the next class, since all the values are there up to 5, it means the next class should start from 6. So in this case, it will be 6 to 10. Such that, let me show you. So we have 6 to 10, meaning our lower class limit here is 5.5, which was our previous. Then the upper class limit here is 10.5. Then find out whether the class interval is 5. So in this case, class interval is equals to 10.5 minus 5.5, which will give us 5. That is our class interval. Class interval should be equal for all the groups. Also here the class interval is 5. So this is 6 to 10. Then the other one should start from 11 to so the other one will be 11 to 15. Then we have 16 to 20. Then we have 21 to 25. I think that is up to our last, our maximum value is 24. Then the next step is to tally. So we find out all the values in between 1 and 5. So in this case, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then, okay, you'll be very keen. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we don't have any. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So how do you tally? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So here we have a frequency as 11. Then the next step is 6 to 10. So let's find out. So we have 1, 6 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then that is 5. Then we have 10 to 15. 10 to 15. In this case, you have to be very keen to ensure that you don't forget any figure. So we have 10 to 15. So on the first column we don't have. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't think if there is any. I'm leaving. So that is 5 also. And then next we have 16 to 20. So 16 to 20. Here we have 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. There are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 4. You have to be very keen, remember, such that your numbers will be, I'll show you how you can tell whether you're right. Then the last class is 21 to 25. 21 to 25, so here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. Let's see if you are right. Let's find the total frequency. The total frequency to determine whether we are right. So the total frequency here will be 11 plus 5, that is 16, 16 plus 5, 16 plus 5 we have 21, 21 plus 4 we have 21 plus 4 is 25, then plus 5 that is 30. If that is 30 now, frequency is the total number of items. the total number of items. So you ask yourself, do we have, if we count all our values, are they 30? Let's see. So in this case here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Meaning our frequency distribution table is right. Remember, that is inclusive form of grouping. And then we have exclusive form of grouping. What is the difference? Exclusive form. Remember, our class interval is still 5, but now we want to group in another way. We want to group in another way. That is exclusive form. So the difference comes in our classes. So same case, here we have class, frequency, tally, and frequency. Class interval remain to be 5. If the class interval is 5, then now we determine how our class is supposed to be. So in exclusive form, you see, in this case, we say all the values between 1 and 5, they are inclusive. In this case, your lower limit should be included, but your upper limit should be excluded. It should not be in your class. So in this case, if I want my first class to be 5, and my minimum value is 1 and maximum value is 24, in this case, I'll decide it to be 0 to 5. Remember, it is exclusive form of grouping, meaning 0 is inclusive, but 5 is not inclusive. It is not inclusive. But our class interval is 5 as well. In this case, when you're finding the class interval in exclusive form, you use something we refer to as class boundaries. The class boundaries, you don't use the limits. In this case, to find the class interval, I was using the limits. But for exclusive form, I'm supposed to use class boundaries to find the class interval. Those terms you must differentiate. So in this case, our first class will be 0 to 5. Then the other one will be 5 to 10. Such that when I'm finding the class interval, it is basically 10 minus 5, which is 5. Here it is 5 minus 0, which is 5. Class interval should be equal for all the classes. That's another key thing that you need to note. So here we have 5 to 10. Then we have 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, and that is our last class since our maximum value is 24. Then you repeat the process, but in this case you have to note that what is inclusive and what is not exclusive. So let me remove this to make it easier for us. So when you are counting very fast, hoping they are not. Okay, let's see. Let me actually use the black one. Okay, so in this case, we want the first class. We want to find out how many values are between 0 and 5. And remember, 5 is exclusive, so it should not be counted. So between 0 and 5. So in this case, here you're supposed to only consider 0 to 4. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So here I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the next class is 5 to 10. So in this case, this is where now we include 5, but we exclude 10. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 5, we exclude 10, 5, 6, yeah, there's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we have between 10 and 15. 10 and 15. 15 is exclusive. 10 and 15. So let's see. 10 and 15. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. There are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the next class is 15 to 20. 15 to 20. So in this case, 15 is inclusive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then last we have 20 to 25. 20 to 25. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if we are correct. In this case, you have to find the total frequency. So here we have 9 plus 6, that is 15 plus 5. 15 plus 5, 20 plus 5, 25 plus 5, 30. Yeah, that is basically how you're supposed to come up with the frequency distribution, but you have to be very careful to note what is the question asking you. Are you supposed to use either inclusive or exclusive form of grouping? These are very key things that you have to note in every question. But if the question does not specify, you just choose your own method or your own form of grouping, the one which is easier for you. But basically you have to know the key terms: inclusive, exclusive, class interval, the class limits, and it will be well. Yeah, thank you.